Hello everyone, this is grade 5, module 6, lesson 10 homework. The directions for one state: use the coordinate plane to complete the following tasks. A says line P represents the rule x and y are equal. And we see that we have line P already on there. So x and y are equal, meaning if x is 1, y is 1. And we can see that right there with that first point. B says construct a line D that is parallel to line P and contains point D in it. So I got to come over here to D and I got to make a line that's parallel to it. And I'm kind of looking at the way the line goes for P, and I know that for every 1 I go up on the X, I'm going up, I would say 1 on the Y. I'm showing 2, but 1 and 1. So I can go over 1, up 1, meaning that whatever I add to the X, I have to add the same to the Y. So if I want to go from D, I want to go over 1, then I have to go up 1. And I can see that I'm going to hit every one going diagonal. And my point right here, 5 and 3, I was at 4 and 2. So I was at 4 and 2. I went to 5 and 3. It looks to me like for every 1 I go up on X, I went 2 to 3. I go up 1 on the Y. So if I go over to 4, I'm going to have to go up to 6. So I'm going to put my line in there. And there's my line right there in blue. And I can see my starting point here that I have 0, 2. And it looks like if I go 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, my rule for this, which for down for D, is going to be X is 2 less than Y, which would mean Y is 2 more than X. So there's my rule for that. And the reason why I went right to the rule instead of doing my 3 coordinate pairs on line D is I kind of need that rule to help me out. So whatever X is, Y is going to be 2 more. So I started at D, which is 4, 2. I know that if I look back, 3 and 1. So X is 1, Y is 3 in there, because I got to go X first and Y second. Another one would be at the 3, 5 point. X is 3, Y is 5. And then my last one that I'm going to pick is 4 and 6. And I know that they're right because they're 2 away. Y is 2 more than X. For E, construct a line E that is parallel to line P and contains point E in it. So again, I'm pretty much going to mimic what I did. I can take a line and just drop it down to point E here and make sure that they don't intersect. But again, for P, I still know that if I go over 1, I have to go up 1. If I go over 1, I have to go up 1. So if I keep that trend or that pattern going, I'm never going to cross P. And I have to remember that that's the same going down. So if I go down 1, I have to go back 1. So I'm going to drop a line on there with my straight edge. So there's my line right there. And I see that they're never going to cross as long as I hold true to adding 1 to X, adding 1 to Y. So whatever I do to X, I have to do to the Y. So it says name 3 points on E. I'm going to go for whole points, meaning whole number ones. You can pick kind of whatever you want. And I'll do this first one down here. Looks like 1 on the x, 0 on the y. And I'll go to another hole, which is 2. So 2, and that's going to meet up with 1. And I'm seeing a rule already coming about here because I'm comparing my x to my y. And I could have went the other way and figured out the rule first. But I see when I get to, I'll say 5 here, I go up and I match, and it looks like it's at 4. So 5 on the x, 4 on the y. And what I'm really doing is I'm just seeing where they meet like this, where the point hits. So that kind of helps out. So my last part of this G that I'm going to go through is identify the rule to describe line E. I'm going to say when I compare my x and my y is 1 less than x. So there's my rule right there. Now for H, you'll compare and contrast lines D and E in terms of their relationship to P. So use your terminology and your wording there to compare and contrast those lines. For 2, it says write a rule for a fourth line that would be parallel to these above that would contain the point 5.5, 2. So I'm going to plot that point on there and get you started. And I'll do it in a different color. Let's do purple. So 5.5 and 2. There it is. And again, I know if I go over 1, I have to go up 1. Whatever I do to the x, I have to do to the y to keep this parallel. So my line is going to be kind of right in this general region. And I'll use my straight edge and put the line on there so you can see it. And I'm going to extend quite a bit so we can view this to help you out. And there's my line right there in purple. And that's line, what do we call that? Just a fourth line. So if I had E, I'm going to label that one F. And now I have another parallel line because they're never going to cross. It's never going to cross any of these because they're all parallel to each other. And now I just have to explain how I know. Let's take a look at page 2. So on page 2, looking like a very, very similar thing. Quite a bit of stuff going on here. So let's start with 3. Use the coordinate plane below to complete the following tasks. A says line P represents the rule x and y are equal. And it looks like it's already put in there for us. So next, B says construct a line V that contains the origin and point V. So I'm going to construct a line. I'm going to come out of the origin, which is right here, and I'm going to line up this point, the origin, with V right here and draw a straight line using my straight edge. So there's my line right there, and I'll put a V on the end of it so I know it's line V. Now I got to find some points on here, and it looks like we got a point right there, and right there, and I think there's one there, and there, and there. So now I just have to name 3 of those points. I'll start with my first one. Looks like it's 1, 2, because that's where they're hitting. My next one looks like 2, 4. My next one looks like it's 3, 6. And I can continue on, but I only need 3. So what's the rule to describe line V? Well, if I look at how I get from x to y, that's plus 1. But remember, a rule has to stay consistent. So if I look at x and y here, that's not plus 1, that's plus 2. Then plus 3. So that's not a rule, it's changing. It looks like if I double x or multiply it by 2, it looks like that's going to work. So 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. So y is going to be twice x. So there's my rule right there. Or you could say y is 2 times as much as x. So that's my rule. Now it's going to tell me to construct a line W that contains the point W and name 3 points. And again, I have to connect W to the origin. So I'm going to make a line there. So there's my line, and I'll label it W, and saying 3 points, and I can see one right there, 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 and then W is a point as well. So now I just got to label these, and I see my first one is 1, 2, 1, because remember, we have to make sure that we go on the X, then the Y when we're labeling these. So my next one is 4, 2, and I'm seeing something kind of interesting compared to my last points that I had to write down up above here for C. And then 6, 3. And I could have picked any of those ones on there, but looks kind of interesting. So the rule, if I'm looking at X to Y, again, X here is 2, Y is 1. It could be subtracting 1, but here, 4 to 2, it's subtracting 2, then subtracting 3. But it looks like I can divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I could say Y is half of X, which is a good one. Or Y divided by 2 is X. But I want to say it in terms like Y is twice X. So I'm going to say Y is half X. I like that statement. So there's my statement there. Y is half X. Meaning I take half, multiply by half, or divide by 2, and I'll get my Y. Now H says compare and contrast lines V and W in terms of the relationship to P. So I'll leave that to you to compare those. And the very last one says, what patterns do you see in lines that are generated by multiplication rules? So you're going to look at your rules that you created for multiplication. I would say this is a multiplication one. And this one lends more to division. So when you look at those lines, try to come up with a pattern or what you notice with the multiplication rules. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps, and good luck on the rest of your homework.